everybody. My name is Tom of MTG Radio, and today something incredible has happened. We've decided to actually invest in EDH on MTGO, specifically with 1v1 Commander. Today is May 3rd. The ban list just came out, and I have a couple of opinions on it, and I don't want to just blow up Twitter / something else, so I thought I'd create a little bit more of a condensed video about it that should hopefully kind of get my opinions on this out there. So just a little background on me. My name is Tom. I stream under the name MTG Radio. Myself and my friend Trevor and I, we actually created the first EDH podcast that was called MTG Radio. That's the name. And I've been streaming Commander on Magic the Gathering Online for the last 4 years at least, back from version 3 and continuing from there. I was lucky enough to be invited over to the Community Cup a couple of years ago. Because of that streaming with Commander Online, it was beyond a blast. And so my interaction with Magic the Gathering Online, specifically when it comes to Commander, is large. I love Commander on MTGO Online. On MTGO, it really allows me to play a format that is very fun and can be very loose and non-competitive in a multiplayer situation when it's 10 p.m. and I don't want to wear shorts. You know, it's just a fun interaction. It's kind of like when you draft at 1 a.m. or a Sky Draft. You get to play the format you love, and you get to do it in an area where it's usually not acceptable for you to be playing Magic the Gathering Online, which is really fun to be playing Magic the Gathering. And especially when it comes to Commander, one of the best things about playing Commander on MTGO is it allows people who are without a play group or who are away from a place where people commonly play MTGO. I've definitely talked with people who play MTGO, who play Commander specifically, who are like in the middle of Arkansas, or who are in the middle of a country or in a state that just doesn't have a local play group that isn't an hour away. And it allows them to play the best format of Magic, just like they would in real life, but online instead. And yes, maybe the social interaction is dominionized, but it doesn't really decrease the amount of fun you can have, and you can still have a blast creating really cool decks. And so for the longest time, Commander has basically been unsupported by Wizards. Some people may say that is incorrect, but if you can look at the amount of time it's been put dethroned onto MTGO, or if you can look at the amount of times they have kind of flubbed in putting Commander cards on Magic the Gathering Online, or just the general support for it, it's lacking in general. They even took away a lot of the best things about Commander that was in version 3. So from my standpoint, they haven't really looked at Commander on MTGO for a long time. And finally, they're like, you know what? Let's double down on Commander on MTGO. You know, this is a platform that we have. So this new thing came out by Brian Howley, and so I thought I would read through it and kind of give my opinions on it as it goes, with a summary at the end. So the whole thing is, hello, brief introduction. I'm Brian Howley, a developer in Magic R&D. I joined the team around Theros. And he's also been the content lead for Magic Duels, overseeing the campaigns and designing the cards up for the implementation of digital Magic. One of the other things that's been heavily criticized when it comes to things that's going on. For some time now, the large majority of Commander play on Magic the Gathering Online has been 1v1 play. I'm going to stop here. So I don't personally believe this, but I definitely understand if there's data to back it up. The biggest reason why is because to play a multiplayer game, it lasts for a lot longer, where when you play a 1v1 game, you can get multiple games in at a time. So if you were to look to play 1v1 Commander and only play 1v1 Commander, those players can play 3 games in the span of a group of 4 playing 1 game. Now, am I going to sit here and pretend that there's this huge thriving community of people playing Commander and Magic the Gathering Online? No. That would be a lie to you and not very fair. You can get a game, especially a 4-player game, within about 3 to 4 minutes, but it does take a little bit for that game to populate, especially at non-peak hours for Magic the Gathering Online. Around 7 p.m., though, you can get in a game lickety-split, and it's really fun that way. Much of the social element, going back to the article, much of the social element of multiplayer is lost in digital translation, so this shouldn't come as much of a surprise. I do agree with that statement 100%, actually. The format has also been growing lately. That's interesting. And it's clear that 1v1 Commander is something that players enjoy and a format that we think is worth supporting. Okay. That said, this growth has prospered despite that the ban list Magic Online has been using is heavily slanted towards multiplayer play. Interesting. That's because Commander is for multiplayer play, but continue. And the resulting 1v1 format is relatively unbalanced. I agree. That's because Commander is for multiplayer play and not really made for 1v1. Starting May 10th, Magic Online will be launching tournament play for 1v1 Commander, consisting of 2-player queues and a friendly constructed league. And we will be changing the official ban list of Magic Online Commander. This includes both 1v1 and multiplayer, to the list that we detail below. On Magic Online, 1v1 Commander will have a starting life total of 30. And multiplayer will remain at 40, though. This ban list and rule set is intended to support both experiences, but the ban list leans towards optimizing for the 1v1 experience. Again, I'm going to stop here because this is probably one of my biggest points about why I hate this decision. You are creating a new format. You are decreasing the life total, but you're using the same base rules as you would from regular Commander. And what you're doing is making it a 1v1 only format instead of multiplayer. First things first, Commander has always been played better in multiplayer. Never hasn't, and it always will be. People who do play 1v1 Commander do enjoy it, and I am so happy. There's a French EDH community which only plays 1v1 EDH. There's a whole new 1v1 EDH Banlist, and it's really cool. They do some very interesting things there, and I really do appreciate that format. Do I think it's anywhere close to related to multiplayer Commander? No, they couldn't be further from it. They couldn't be further from each other. When you play multiplayer Commander, you're starting with a life total of 40, and your opponents collectively have a life total of 120. This means that stuff like damage-based combos can't really be executed unless they're infinite. Something like storming off with a grape shot is much more difficult when it comes to multiplayer Commander, because you have to get through 120 life points, as opposed to 1v1 Commander, which is 30. So those formats at its core are already separate. And you're even saying so when you're making this new format you're putting on Magic Gathering Online. To be perfectly clear, to return to the article, to be perfectly clear, this ban list is only intended for Magic Online Commander. We respect the community roots, no you don't, and oversight the Commander's Rule Committee. And the creation and support of this format is in no way intended to impact Paper Commander. That is true, but it does severely impact your online Commander community. As the developer behind the ban list, I'll give some brief philosophical basis. Broadly, the goal of this ban list is to create a format that's fun for as many players as want to play it. No, it's for 1v1 Commander. We'll factor in both how strong cards are and how much fun players have both playing with and against them. Cards and strategies that are frustrating and enjoyable to play against will have a slightly lower threshold for banning than cards that are universally enjoyed, but we still consider those bans carefully. Here's another question. So how are you going to monitor the multiplayer format? Because you already admit that you're really looking forward to bannings in the 1v1 format, but if the multiplayer format gets out of hand, which it will, as I detail soon, you're now saying that the ban list is only going to be really constructed around 1v1 Commander with some like little side bans for multiplayer. But you're not actually saying that you're going to be watching those multiplayer games, really investing in what's happening to the multiplayer Commander community, and just saying, no, you guys don't exist, you've never existed, and we don't care about you. We believe that diversity, going back to the article, we believe that diversity in a metagame is an important factor in having fun. So, having a wide variety of commanders and strategies and avoiding an oppressive top tier are also important. This is one of several factors, but it's an important one. That's cute. Commander has always been about diversity, especially in the multiplayer format, where one strategy has never been strong enough because you're playing against 3 players. If you have someone trying to combo out with a zombie, it's very easy to hate out the mono blue player and then they don't win. If you have a very competitive group of EDH players who are playing 4-player Commander, each one is probably going to bring something different, or like just Sultai Reanimator, because that interaction is much, much, much more fun. You can't just rely on having a Force of Will or a Misdirection to be able to get your combo through, which is what you do when you play 1v1 Commander. By playing a multiplayer format, you so severely decrease the power of counterspells and decrease the power of free spells because you have to play against 3 people, that it's incredibly important when you're creating a format that is basically vintage light. That is what Commander is. Getting back to another sentence I hate, given that the majority of Commander Plan MTGO is 1v1, we will lean towards optimizing that experience. But we want both 1v1 and multiplayer to be enjoyable, and we'll adjust the format accordingly. And then this sentence is dumb. 1v1 Commander is a more casual experience than many of our formats and isn't aimed at the top tiers of competitive play. Changes to the ban list will be driven by negative player experiences, so if/when clearly dominant decks or strategies emerge, we'll look to take action. We expect to be relatively reactive when it comes to banning or unbanning cards, given the lack of pressure from premier level play. Again, we're going to get back to this argument. We expect changes to be slower than for formats that have that level of competition. We will also consider the impact of changes. We weigh whether bans invalidate entire decks or just remove individual cards, and where possible try to preserve the viability of players' decks. There's an important piece of information hidden in this paragraph that doesn't immediately come out, and it's this one. We expect to be relatively reactive when it comes to banning or unbanning cards. Given the lack of pressure from premier level play, we expect changes to be slower. So there's 2 things that just happened. Number 1, the sentence after their previous sentence just invalidates it. They're like, we're going to be very reactive, but we're going to be slow about it. Which is, what? But even more than that, they say that there isn't a lack of premier level play, but they are creating their own premier level play in their own client for MTGO 1v1 Commander, which to me is the worst part of the entire thing. So The main gripe I have, there's two main gripes, but the second one, besides the fact that they're invalidating the connection between paper Magic the Gathering Commander and online Magic the Gathering Commander, is the fact that they are pretending this 1v1 Commander is going to be a casual experience. As someone who has gone to a GP and has played in 4-player groups where there is even a slight prize on the line, I cannot tell you how competitive those decks are. You should not play the GP side events that interact with Commander unless you bring a competitive deck, because people win on turn 4 consistently. It's just a fact of life, because you're giving people an incentive structure that validates them for winning the game. One of the best parts about Commander, one of the things that I love about multiplayer Commander, is that although there is an incentive to win the game, a lot of how Commander is played is much more based around let's have fun and play a game of Commander, in which we get to experience these really cool, crazy, kooky decks, have fun showing off what our deck does, and really get to enjoy how the game progresses. Because although there may be a winner at the end, there isn't a prize for us to try to attain. We're just winning to win. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that people who play Commander don't want to win the game. What I am saying is the minute that you add an incentive structure, people playing Commander turn Commander into Vintage Light. And on top of turning Commander into Vintage Light, you're going to then decrease the life total from 40 to 30 and make it 1v1 only, is the dumbest thing in the world. This ban list may go through relatively rapid iteration as this format is put through its paces at MTGO. The first few months may see bans at accelerated pace if the format at launch is problematic. This is the Magic Online Commander ban list, broken down into loose categories. So first, they're killing fast mana. Black Lotus was already banned, so is Channel, so is Fastbond. Gaia's Cradle is now banned. Mana Crypt is a new ban. Mana Vault is a new ban. Workshop is a new ban. All the boxes were already banned. All the Moxes were already banned. Sol Ring is now banned, and so is Flaring Academy. So a lot of people are really happy about the fast mana ban. And for me, I've never had a true issue with fast mana. If I were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being something they have to ban immediately, 1 being Sanctuary Cat, which is a card we will never ban, I would definitely rate fast mana as a 6. I always thought Sol Ring was about a 6, and here's why. Because without fast mana, green is the best color in Commander. And I know this might be a controversial opinion, but let me explain why I feel this way, and even if you don't believe me, you'll at least see where my point of view is here. The biggest issue with Commander is that it's a format, and this is an integral issue because of a multiplayer format. The biggest issue is that it is based around casting the biggest splashiest spells because you're given the time to play the biggest splashiest spells. When everyone starts at 40, you can actually play a game where you don't cast a real actionable board-based spell until turn 4 or turn 5. This means that decks could do stuff like play Cultivate on turn 3, Explosive Vegetation on turn 4, and then play like Avengers Zendikar on turn 5. And that's okay in this format because you can get away with it. But if you were playing red-white or blue-black or black-white, how are you supposed to match up with a player going from 2 to 7 mana by the time turn 5 wraps around? The only way you could do anything about that was with fast mana. Cards like Sol Ring, Mana Crypt, and Mana Vault. For me, these cards are much less an issue and as much as a gatekeeper in preventing the format from getting out of hand. And so instead of figuring fast mana this way, because, and I do agree with this assessment, in 1v1 those cards would be too powerful. In multiplayer they're not. Sol Ring and its ilk actually allowed decks that weren't playing green to keep pace with decks that were playing green and be able to have artifact acceleration that allowed them to keep pace with the player who's playing stuff like Avengers Zendikar or Tooth and Nail on turn 7 and not have to always pack counter spells. That is now no longer the case on Magic the Gathering Online. I can't imagine myself building a deck that doesn't involve green that is going to be severely put behind by turn 4. Because the moment my opponent casts Cultivate is a moment that I'm severely far behind. The moment my opponent casts Nissa's Pilgrimage is the moment that my deck basically is second rate or not as good. And for me, that's what fast mana allowed non-green decks to be able to combat and complement, was that you were able to keep pace with green decks. And now green decks are going to so severely out-mana their opponents, especially on Magic the Gathering Online Commander, that it's not going to make sense not to play green as part of your commander or color identity. And that is definitely going to be a really big issue that occurs in the multiplayer Magic the Gathering Online Commander community, which does exist. Overall, though, I do agree with these bans for 1v1 Commander, funnily enough. For 1v1 Commander, this stuff makes a lot of sense. For multiplayer Commander, I fully disagree. Combo enablers. This is interesting. So Bazaar, Baghdad, Doomsday, Entomb, Food Chain, Gifts Ungiven, Hermit Druid, Protean Hulk, Survival of the Fittest, Time Vault, Tinker, Yawgmoth's Bargain. Shoutouts to Protean Hulk getting banned online after getting recently unbanned in Commander. That I found was hilarious. Bazaar getting banned I find interesting. Doomsday, Entomb, and Food Chain are also all new bans. All of which I find, and also Survival, very odd. Survival, I understand getting banned. That card was dumb in multiplayer, and if you really wanted to ban it, I always understood it. But Entomb getting banned, I find really stupid, especially in multiplayer Commander. Sure, you could Entomb and then reanimate a Jin-Gitaxias, but you still had to deal with 3 other players being able to prevent you from comboing off. I understand the ban in 1v1 Commander. A lot of these bans actually make sense in 1v1 Commander, which again goes back to my original issue, which is that you're making a ban list for a different format than the regular format that people play. Oppressive Commanders. Arkham Dax and Braids. Sorry, Braids people. Derevi, Edric, Arayo, Grizzlebrand, Raphaelos, Yisan, Anzer, the Enchanter. God, Serb getting banned is so dumb. So the reason these bans exist, again, they look at the 1v1 Commander ban list, and a lot of those bans do make sense in 1v1 Commander. I fully agree. You know, this Edric getting banned, whatever. The fact that these also extend to multiplayer is my biggest issue. Zur is not an oppressive commander in multiplayer. You can definitely get around Zur. He's a 1-3 for 3. You can deal with it. Or if you can't, your friend can. And if they can't, maybe your other friend can. Because welcome to multiplayer, where you can deal with everything. In 1v1, you can't. So again, I understand these bans for 1v1 commander. Makes tons of sense. Doesn't make sense in multiplayer. And finally, recall, back to basics, balance, humility, Krakus, Library, Mana Drain, Mind Twist, Moat, Natural Order, Necropotence, Oath of Druids, Sarah Ascendant, Tabernacle, and Time Walk. There's a lot of new bans in here. And a lot of these, although again, they make a little bit of sense for 1v1, don't even make sense in 1v1, and don't even make sense when it comes to multiplayer Commander. Mind Twist is a dumb card. Really strong. Very replicable, and is not actually going to prevent people from playing discard-based decks in 1v1. Humility getting banned, I don't understand at all. Humility is just honestly a fun, silly card that means that you have to run artifact and enchantment removal. You rarely see it. I can't imagine their idea behind banning it. Same with Moat. Moat is getting banned. You're putting everyone down to 30 life, and then you're banning Moat. It just, you don't want control decks to exist in your 1v1 format, and also you're going to harm multiplayer with it as well. And then multiplayer-based bans, Biorhythm, Limited Resources, Painter Servant, Senses Divining Top, Trade Secrets. And then there's new events, there's a Friendly League, and a 2-player queue. Here are the cards that are now unbanned in Magic the Gathering Online Commander. Coalition Victory, Emrakul, Leovold, Emissary of Trust, Panoptic Mirror, Primeval Titan, Prophet of Crufix, Recurring Nightmare, Sundering Titan, Sway of the Stars, Sylvan Primordial, Upheaval, and Worldfire now are no longer banned on Magic the Gathering Online Commander. Coalition Victory is a dumb card. It should always be banned in Commander. It's too easy to get off. You win on turn 6 or turn 4 consistently. They've created their own terrible archetype by leaving it off the ban list. Primeval Titan, Sundering Titan, Sylvan Primordial, Recurring Nightmare all coming back leads to the most degenerate black-green decks, degenerate green decks, and degenerate blue decks you've ever seen, including Upheaval returning and Worldfire. Now, their argument is that, oh, well, you know, 1v1 Commander isn't affected by this, so we don't really need to put it onto the multiplayer ban list. Those cards were banned for a reason. Those cards are dumb. As someone who's been playing Commander from Shards of Alara on, I've seen all of those cards in Commander, besides Upheaval, because that card is dumb. Actually, no, Upheaval was legal for a while, and it was dumb. Besides stuff like Sway of the Stars and Coalition Victory. And Emrakul. Oh, I saw the days of Emrakul. Emrakul was the worst card to play against in Commander. I sold my Emrakuls when they got banned, and I was ecstatic about it. But now they are now unbanned in Magic the Gathering Online Commander. And I couldn't be more peeved. I'm going to go with peeved, because angry is probably the wrong word. Seething may be a better word for this. At the end of the day, I have 2 or 3 main issues with this new generation, and honestly, they can be easily changed in a microsecond, or maybe, you know, a week of coding, which you have before the 10th arrives. And here they are. Number 1, you've created a new format and you pretend it's the old format, but don't pretend it's the old format by giving it a new life total, and then force the previous format to play by those rules. For me, this is a concept I don't understand, especially when you're talking about an online program in which you can just create 2 different ban lists. What I would have preferred is if they just called this version of Commander something else, or still called this Commander and just called multiplayer Commander EDH and had fun that way. Like, you know what? We know you guys love EDH. Here's EDH. It's your regular old multiplayer format. Have fun with that. And then just created your own version of Commander that's apparently only 1v1. And that would have made me relatively happy. I could have had my own ban list in EDH, your own ban list in Commander, and we can stop pretending these formats are even close to the same, because they're not. Number 2, pretending this new format is casual is probably the dumbest thing I've heard in my entire life. You're creating an incentive structure that is going to create the most competitive vintage-based decks that you've seen outside of, well, Vintage. Because you're creating an incentive structure for these decks to win. Now, there are some nice people who will play their fun Tribal Giants deck in the Commander-friendly league and then go 0-5 because they have to deal with Sultai Reanimator. They have to deal with decks milling their entire library on turn 2. They have to deal with so many terrible things that they're just never going to play again. And sure, you got their 8 tickets, great job, but why continue to play? So then they're like, okay, I'm going to take my Tribal Giants deck and just play regular multiplayer Commander where we can have fun. And then they just get stomped there. Because one of the biggest issues and one of the funniest things is that, have you ever tried to play casual games against someone who has a competitive deck? It doesn't work and it's not fun. One of the biggest questions I get when I do stream is, hey Tom, my play group at my local shop is really competitive. They win by turn 5 and I just can't really play anything fun. I don't really feel like Commander is the place for me to play. And my response to them is always this. Commander is a format that has multiple different play groups and multiple different play styles. And finding your own play group is really difficult. Truly. Very difficult. Especially when you wanted to do something fun or something silly. Again, gonna keep going with Tribal Giants. I love that deck. Your best shot isn't to get them to change, but to create your own play group built around being a casual group of Magic players. And what Magic Gathering Online decided to do was to not allow that interaction to exist, but instead to create a similar ban list for 2 different formats, one of which is competitive and one of which is casual. Meaning that if you want to try out your new competitive EDH deck with which to play points and with which to win a bunch of treasure chests, you now, when you try and play casual Commander, will have to go up against decks that are made to win on turn 5 and turn 4. This was already an issue when it came to Magic Gathering Online. A lot of people did play very competitive decks that could win on turn 4 or turn 5. And sure, they were boring to play against, but you didn't see them too often because there was no incentive to make very competitive EDH decks. Now there is. And now Commander and Magic Gathering Online is going to become so much more competitive that it's going to push out anyone who would turn to Commander as a fun way to play Magic the Gathering Online when they don't have a local play group with which to play EDH with. What's the point? When you're in the middle of Arkansas, you're in the middle of Mississippi, you're in the middle of New York, and you don't have a local play group you can play with or want to play with, you go on Magic the Gathering Online, you do a couple of drafts, you put together an EDH deck for like $5, right? Then you go and play, and your opponent plays a fully foiled out deck with a bunch of dual lands and stomps you in 3 turns. Why continue? And for me, that's what I'm the most disappointed about. Because they've decided to create a new format that severely hinders and hurts the other format. Create a ban list that only makes it worse, and they could easily prevent it. So the main reason I'm making this video, I would say, is to express my disappointment with this choice and to hope that Wizards of the Coast just makes the obvious change of returning the regular ban list to multiplayer Magic the Gathering Commander Online. It's simple as that. Sincerely, I couldn't care less about 1v1 EDH. It's not a format I play. But you're forcing me to play by their rules, and that is something I truly dislike. Because I don't start at 40 life. I don't start at 30 life. I start at 40 life. I don't have to kill somebody who starts at 30. I have to beat 3 different players, each of which start at 40. And that is severely different. And imagining for a second that you can make a ban list that is good for both of those formats is obnoxious and dumb, and immediately set up to fail from the outset. So for me, as someone who chiefly plays Commander and Magic Gathering Online, I would like to express my disgust with this decision, and I really hope that they take the easy out, which is, you know what, good point. We didn't realize that there was a large community of people who played Commander or Magic the Gathering Online and who don't want to be working by a different format's rules. I truly hope that's the decision they come up with. If they don't, I'm going to be severely disappointed because it invalidates any money I put into MTGO. I feel like it really does. I purchased cards specifically and sold cards specifically because they were decent in Commander or they worked well. And now my collection that I have in MTGO, not really worth much of anything because it's going to be pushed out by incredibly competitive decks. The only way I'll be able to have fun in the format anymore is by creating a small community on my own that only plays Commander as it is in real life, which is dumb and not what I think MTGO is made to do. In the end, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I know it's very ranty, and I don't apologize because I hate this change. If you want to follow me on Twitch, I do stream Commander. I'll be streaming Commander a bunch, and I'm also part of the MTG Goldfish's Commander Clash crew. But yeah, I stream Commander at MTG Radio, and that's also my Twitter handle and other stuff. So if you have questions or if you agree or disagree, please let me know. Again, I can't fathom why this would be considered a good idea, and I'm sure I'm not the only person. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.